The lights go out, but the show begins. Welcome to Donovan and Dino, everyone. Alongside Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DeNatale. The timing is everything. You're going to love that.
We are going to shift this to a radio call. Okay, we'll do a radio call on this because we cannot paint the pictures visually.
Well, my friend, we haven't done one of these. By the way, let's pay the bills first. Donovan and Dino presented by Master Pizza, Mike LaMarca and the great people at Master Pizza. Download the Master Pizza app and earn pizza points through Master Pizza, taste above all. We haven't done one of these since Thursday, so I really haven't talked to you on air much about obviously what has transpired with the Browns and Myles Garrett. We'll get to his appeal tomorrow, but 4 or 5 days later, it is still making local, national conversation like very little else that we've encountered when it comes to non-LeBron James Cleveland sports.
Yeah, true. Well, it was a standalone game, and by that I mean it was the only game that night. It wasn't like it didn't happen on a Sunday afternoon where there were 6 1:00 games and all of a sudden you pop in on something like that. So I mean, it was right out there. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was it was terrible. It's the most bizarre, empty feeling I've ever had walking out of First Energy Stadium after a Browns win. And then you add to it that it's a win over Pittsburgh, which should touch off wild celebrations. And it's a shame. There's nothing good about it, and it's not going to be resolved soon. And I don't think society's going to allow it to be resolved quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this thing's going to go away. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I don't think it's going away and that's why I think the decision and the announcement of the suspensions came down so quickly, because the outrage was so loud and far and wide.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything polarize the Browns fan base, let alone Cleveland sports fan base, and the national sports fan base, but just Browns and fans in general. I've never seen it so polarizing like that, where, I mean, you either were absolutely, if you dared to say that you think that Garrett was wrong to swing the helmet, then, people were like, wait a minute, how could you say that? It's Mason Rudolph, or vice versa. You're not hard enough on Myles Garrett. And it's a product of, I think, social media and the instant reaction of things. But I don't know. I'm sure with you, as you've gone out, out on the streets and you've talked to people. I mean, this is a hard one for people to get their heads around.
Yeah, and it really ruined, no matter what your feeling is, of who was in the wrong. And I definitely feel that Mason Rudolph had some impact on what happened, but we just don't have any. The clear evidence is of Myles, hitting him with the helmet. We don't know what touched that off, though. Something happened that touched that off. So, but no, I just think that when you go around right now, it's just it's a feeling. It's just a shame that a great night like that, because the Browns played very, very well. It was the most dominating defensive performance that they've had this year, from a defense that we expected to be dominating week in and week out, but it has undersold on the way it has played all year, and it definitely played very, very well. I mean, the 4 interceptions, sacks, things like that, great plays. By individual players. I mean, we really should have been talking about Joe Schobert turning in one of the all-time great games that a Browns linebacker has played. Denzel Ward gave them another great game. Before he popped his Achilles, Morgan Burnett played a great game. And Nick Chubb, my adopted son, hit the 1,000-yard mark. We should be talking about that, but all of that stuff gets shoved, not to the back page, just not on any page at all because of what happened. The visuals are so bad. And the visual is so bad for Myles Garrett. It really is. And the other fact is, there's like 27 cameras on that game, so it's not like anything is hidden there. They have every angle possible of what went on. So it's a very, it should have been a great weekend to celebrate beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. The season's starting to show a little bit of life, and they've won a couple in a row. And they haven't beaten the Steelers since 2014, and they really beat the Steelers.
Yeah, pounded them.
And then when you
beat the Ravens and Steelers for the first time in the same season.
Absolutely. But you go back and you just say, gosh, 8 seconds left in the game to have that happen is just
mind-blowing.
Mind-numbing.
Mind-numbing.
And the after effects now,
Yeah.
what we're left with.
Because now you're like you say, Garrett's going to go, he's on his way to New York, or he's actually in New York now. He'll meet with James Thrash tomorrow. No matter what happens, this isn't going to go away in a couple of weeks.
No.
This is even if it's a 6-game suspension, it's still going to be something that's going to carry over the rest of the season if the Browns were to make a miraculous run of the playoffs and into 2020 before the dust settles.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he's trying to do, this is from some, thoughts of why is he going, because a lot of times players don't go to the appeal hearing. Larry Ogunjobi didn't go to the appeal hearing yesterday. Marquise Pouncey, I don't know that his hearing was today, but Myles is going to go. Now, Myles has plenty of time on his hands right now because he's not with the team. He is out of there, okay? That's the real difficult part for him, is that he's totally out of the game right now. He has to be reinstated back into the league. So I think he's going to go there, but if he believes that he's going to get, some people feel he's going to get a definitive number of games.
Yes.
He wants to know, how many games am I going to be out?
Right. Is it 10? Is it 4? Is it 6?
Yeah, is it just the rest of the season? That would be 6. Is it going to go into next season? What do I do to get the thing turned around? I think he's going to have a much more sympathetic ear if he lets some time pass and gets in front of Roger Goodell. He's not going to be in front of the commissioner tomorrow. He's in front of a hearing organizer in James Thrash, who's doing this. He's hearing his appeal tomorrow. So I just think that's really, that's his mission. I don't know if he's going to be happy with the outcome of that. I don't know that we're going to hear any outcome tomorrow on this. We didn't hear anything about Ogunjobi, and we haven't heard anything tonight about Marquise Pouncey and his 3-game suspension. I think the next step is to hear his appeal, and then I think the next step is going to be, there'll be a lot of fines doled out for guys that were on the field. But I think this is going to take some time. This is, as you mentioned, this is not going to go away very quickly, because if it was a quick decision, I'm telling you, and that thing is lessened, I really believe there'll be even more public outcry.
Yeah. From your experience now, I mean, Garrett's a third-year player. He's aggressive. When the whistle blows, when the ball is snapped, he's as aggressive as any player there is. This to me was out of character for him to do something like this, and everybody's saying, well, Rudolph would have had to do something to provoke him, but just from an optics, a long-term optics from up in the radio booth or us as fans or whatever, it just seemed like it was so uncharacteristic of him to take something like that to the next level.
Yeah, but he's amped it up this year because I know he really feels he is on the cusp of being the Defensive Player of the Year. He mentions that a lot, and he certainly did in the walk-up to the season. And then, he has taken some penalties. I mean, this is not a standalone incident on Thursday night. I mean, they'll go back and they'll say, well, you've had roughing the passer penalties. You threw a punch at Delaney Walker in the first game at Tennessee. Now, even as I verbalize that, there's a trend forming here. This is a different player than I think you and I are thinking of.
Yes.
This is not the guy that's been walking his beautiful black German Shepherd, out of training camp.
You think about Myles Garrett when he's off the field, walking the dogs, having charity events. I mean, even today, I guess I heard yesterday, Jonathan Peterlin of The Fan was saying that, he was, talking to guys on the street, people on the street, and having conversations, and warm, friendly guy as we've gotten to know him.
I would advise him to continue to do that.
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, he's, at times a very cerebral guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. Kind of a little bit doesn't like, I don't think he likes a lot of noise. I mean, even when I see him, on a road trip, he's usually, he's kind of off by himself. Not in a, isolated way, but he's quiet. Now, I would say this as we go on here. I mean, I think that, you take a look at him, and I think he really got wrapped up in this, though. But a couple of Browns players came up to me in the locker room after the game on Thursday night, and they said, you have to understand, he gets held on every play.
Yes.
And it builds up in him this frustration. But I don't think that just being held a couple of times. Now, Alejandro Villanueva picked up a couple of holding calls.
Yeah.
That was Myles Garrett induced. I mean, they held a couple of times on him. Now, they say he gets held on every play because he's so good. But I don't think even that would bring out this reaction. That's why I think there was something more that happened, something said. I mean, there was a kick, I think, in an unpleasant area to his body. But I do believe he's been a different player this year. Now, if you remember, a lot of people said when he was coming out of Texas A&M, they wondered, does football mean enough to him to be a great player? I mean, he seems to have other great interests, which nobody should put him down for. I mean, he's a very interesting guy. I just think that he felt this year was very, very important, and he wanted to be recognized like the guys over on the offensive side of the football were being recognized in the preseason buildup of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, he wanted to be, and I was thinking about that point when the Browns had their first press conference with Odell Beckham. They at the podium they had Landry, they had Beckham, they had Mayfield, but they had Garrett and they had Denzel Ward. And I remember thinking those five, like that's the core, that's the team right there. But like when they had like Thursday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, you might see Mayfield or you might see Beckham, but you probably wouldn't see Garrett. And where you want to be the face of the franchise.
Yeah, and I think
it's a human nature thing.
Sure, and when you have that kind of talent, and I'm sure you're talking about Sunday Night Football. I'm sure he's saying, hey, listen, I think I'm every bit as good as Aaron Donald, who would have been on the same stage with him. I think I'm every bit as good as T.J. Watt. Right. Okay, the Steelers' great pass rusher, and so I think that's a natural thing. But still, something more had to happen to take a guy's helmet off and then hit him over the head with that. And in the locker room, which was absolutely eerie in the locker room because it did feel like they had lost the game and they had one of their great wins in a long, long time. But in the locker room, I don't really believe that it hit him until at his locker, he turned around to face the media and saw the cameras. I mean, it's almost like a scene you would see in a movie. Right. Where, they're not going to do this. There's an episode in The West Wing where Toby and Charlie get arrested. That's right, yes. Okay, yes. And they say, I don't think that this is going to be on page 12D. and Sam says, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
They come out and there's cameras everywhere. Well, that was kind of the scene Thursday night when he turned around after a long, long period of time as he was getting dressed and getting ready to go. And I'm sure he could feel the multitude, the pack of reporters and camera people behind him. But when you turn around and those lights are hitting you, and they're everywhere, I mean, then I think you say, this is big and this is not good.
The California 47th didn't work out so well for Sam, Toby, and Charlie. Whenever you can get a West Wing reference on this show, it's a good thing. Does this team, in these last 6 games or what have you, mentally can they get through this? I mean, we're going to find out starting with the Dolphins on Sunday, but that's going to be, I guess, the thing that I'm most curious about. It's they've shown themselves physically to be they can play. That was the thing with the Steeler game, Jimmy. It's like they played the way I think we have been talking about all year, to be a physically dominant football team. They can do that. Right. But mentally now, can they get through this?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's going to have to be accomplished in a very different way without him, and on Sunday without Larry Ogunjobi, because I don't think his appeal is going that suspension is going to get turned over. So they'll be missing, a lot, and I don't know that Olivier Vernon's going to be able to play either. So you'd be missing 3 of your front 4 on the defense. And the other thing is, you really got hurt at the safety position. Yes. Because now they've lost Morgan Burnett is out for the year with a ruptured Achilles tendon. Whitehead got kicked off the team. They've had people.
Thomas has been hurt. No. Who am I thinking? Eric.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, Eric Murray. Eric Murray's been out with a knee situation. So just logistically, they're really going to have to strand it together and piece it together Sunday against the Dolphins. So they'll have to rely on Chris Smith, who's had a tragic year because of his fiance getting struck in that horrible accident and killed. They'll need Chad Thomas to play,
Yes.
and he's been playing a little bit better. But they're going to have to piece it together now defensively. And I think they can do that, especially against Miami. And I even think they should get Ogunjobi back for Pittsburgh. It would help to get Vernon back. But I think the way they can do it, Dino, is they have to score a lot more points.
Yes.
And they're fully capable of doing that with that offense. They really should have scored 40 against the Steelers the other night. There were 3 of those picks that they got against Pittsburgh that they were initiated, or by the end of the return of the interception, they were in Pittsburgh territory. And a couple of times, they didn't even get a first down on the back end of that. So the offense now really has to pick it up and is fully capable of doing it. We're talking about subtractions on the Browns' defense through injury and suspension. There's been an addition on the Browns' offense. Kareem Hunt's been added in. So now it's time, guys. I mean, let's go,
Yeah. Because that was another thing. I really love what they do with Hunt and Chubb, and the fact.
Yeah,
that
and I'd love it a little bit more. I have to be honest with you. I think it still is obviously in the growing process and kind of getting to know you. But yeah, I mean, it's there, and they should employ it and get it going, because I really do believe they're going to they can take the stress off of an undermanned defense by scoring more or just holding onto the ball longer.
Right.
And I think that will be imperative as we go along here.
All right, again, Myles Garrett will meet with, again, not Commissioner Roger Goodell, but James Thrash tomorrow in New York. And as you say, don't look probably for a quick resolution on this. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, I don't think so. I really don't. I think that right now, Dino, I would be very surprised if there's any change in the language of the suspension or the term of the suspension. And that being said, what you have basically, he's not going to play the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And I don't think until he kind of some time passes on this thing, and then he sits down with the commissioner, whenever that is. Now, that could be a lengthy period of time. I mean, I don't see Roger Goodell sitting down with him during the playoffs or the Super Bowl or anything like that. Maybe after that into the offseason. Until then, I mean, he is, he's AWOL. He's not with the team at all. But I don't see anything being resolved tomorrow that would give us a clear picture on when this thing is going to end.
Yeah. All right. We'll continue to kind of monitor this for you at WKYC.com. Jimmy will be back with you tonight on What's Next at 11 o'clock. Again, Donovan Dino is always presented by Master Pizza. Download the Master Pizza app and earn pizza points from Master Pizza. Taste above all. This is Donovan Dino right here on 3 News Facebook Live and on YouTube.
All right,
my friend. Thank you.